The Chinese capital of Beijing was hit for the second time in 2 weeks on April 15 by sandstorms, covering the city's skyline in an apocalyptic orange-brown haze. Chinese media outlets reported a large building in Inner Mongolia had been completely buried by sand in less than 7 minutes during the storm. Chinese netizens on Weibo made comments such as, "I am full of filth, I don't want to talk, my white clothes are full of filthy mud. This mud soup is outrageous and it's mud soup. The water from my wipers has become all yellow. My car has become camouflaged. Now it's thunder and wind." Some people commented, "Whether you wear light-coloured clothes or dark clothes, it doesn't matter. You would become a mud doll in seconds." Reports from Chinese state-run media appeared to indicate a large building in Hohhot, Inner Mongolia, was completely submerged by sand during the storm in as little as 7 minutes. In March, China endured 2 severe sandstorms in the span of less than half a month, with Beijing being battered by the worst storm the capital has seen in 10 years. China's Central Meteorological Observatory issued gale wind, sandstorm and forest fire warnings affecting Beijing and the surrounding area, as well as Hebei province. Parts per million air pollution was recorded at nearly 8,000 micrograms per cubic metre in the area during the storm, nearly 4 times higher than the 2,000 micrograms per cubic metre seen in the previous storm. According to data from the US Environmental Protection Agency, the national standard for parts per million particulate between 2010 and 2019 is 150 micrograms per cubic metre. News and videos released by the Beijing Municipal Meteorological Bureau showed strong winds, thunderstorms and dim weather in Muyuan, Shangping, Heiru, Yangqing, Haidian, as well as other places in Beijing. Chinese netizens reported something they described as mud rain was also falling in certain areas. Video and photos from the storm show that sand and dust mixed with rain left vehicles covered in a brown mud-like paste. The sky was orangey brown during the storm, giving it an appearance some described as post-apocalyptic, as visibility neared zero. One video showed roadside tree branches swaying on the verge of breaking from wind gusts, which were reported in excess of 50 miles per hour. A former UFC women's champion from Lithuania has refused to back down after making anti-communist remarks in advance of her upcoming title match against a champion from mainland China. Former women's strawweight champion Rose Namajunas and current champion Zhang Weili, born in Handan, Hebei, China, face off on April 24th in UFC's 261 main event. The 28-year-old Lithuanian-American, also known as Rose Thug, caused a stir online when she said in an interview with Lithuanian news outlet ESPN that her motivation and mindset towards the bout is better dead than red. The anti-communist slogan was widely used during the Cold War. Namajunas said that to her as a fighter, freedom is a huge motivating factor. Some fans criticised the former champion for her comments, saying that it's unfair to mix politics and sport, especially as Zhang has not spoken about her political beliefs. In the initial interview, the star said she values freedom and her opinions are based upon her experiences with communist aggression, and referenced the inspirational documentary The Other Dream Team. The documentary focuses on the Lithuanians' men's basketball team competing in the 1992 Summer Olympics after the collapse of the Soviet Union. Namajunas addressed those critical of her remarks. "If you're confused about any of my opinions, you can watch the documentary and you could get a good idea as to what my family had to go through. The reason I'm in the United States today, the reason that I do mixed martial arts, all of that stuff. I'd probably have a really different life if it weren't for everything in that documentary, how Lithuanians had to struggle with communist oppression," she said during an interview with the MMA show. The reason that I brought it up and that I referenced it is because the reporter suggested I had animosity towards past opponents, and that's what may have caused some motivation in those fights. And in this one, there's no animosity, so maybe there's a lack of motivation, but that couldn't be further from the truth. Namajunas said her commentary came from her own opinions, which were shaped by real-life experiences. It's who I am, it's my history. When I fight, it has nothing to do with emotion. She also said she feels amicable towards the Chinese champion. I love Weili. I don't know her, I know she wants to be friends and all that stuff, and it would be great to get to know her. Rose said she has no misgivings over her better dead than red comment, saying she regards any opponent as red, adding they are just the person standing in the way of my dream. She also added that with communism, you can't freely have an opinion or criticize your government. Last year, Thug Rose beat Jessica Andrade at UFC 251 in a split decision after losing her title to Andrade in 2019 at UFC 237 by knockout. After the bout, the former champion announced that she would be auctioning off her fight kit to help UFC makeup artist Susie Fritton, who is battling stage 4 metastatic breast cancer. Two high-ranking members of a US-based human rights NGO recently said that they were flattered that China's communist regime placed sanctions upon the pair for their organization's work against the genocide of Uyghur Muslims, as well as Falun Gong practitioners, Tibetans and Christians. The Chinese Communist Party recently sanctioned the president and vice president of the US Commission on International Religious Freedom, Gail Manchin and Tony Perkins, forbidding them from entering the Chinese mainland, Hong Kong and Macau. According to a Wall Street Journal report authored by Manchin and Perkins, the two made clear to the CCP we will not be intimidated or silenced. The pair continued, in fact, we're flattered by the Chinese government's recognition for our work in defending religious freedom in China, as we join an increasing list of courageous American, European and other officials on whom the party has likewise applied sanctions for standing up to a regime that has violated its obligations under the Genocide Convention. The sanctions are a desperate attempt to silence international scrutiny of Beijing's abysmal human rights record, in particular its genocidal policies against the Uyghurs and other Turkic Muslims in Xinjiang, and its persecution of other religious minorities. In a statement given on April 10, Manchin told Reuters, I feel flattered to be recognized by Communist China for calling out genocidal crimes against religious and ethnic minorities in the country. Gail Manchin, the wife of Democratic West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin, said, while I don't have plans to travel to China this summer, I won't stop speaking out when egregious violations of religious freedom are taking place as they are in China. The United States on Saturday condemned China's sanctions against two Americans and Canadian lawmaker Michael Chong. According to CNN, US Secretary of State Antony Blinken said the CCP's sanctions only draw more international scrutiny to the ongoing genocide and crimes against humanity in Xinjiang.